The Lives of the Saints by Father Alban Butler. June 26th. St. Maxentius of Poitou. The French town of Saint-Maixent, in the Deux-Sèvres department, includes the cell in which St. Maxentius lived and the adjoining monastery that he ruled. The saint was born in Agde on the Gulf of Lion around 445 and, at baptism, received the name of Adjutor. Under the watchful care of the abbot St. Severus, entrusted by his parents to look after him as a child, he grew up as a model of Christian virtue. Most of his brothers in religion admired and respected him, but a few were envious of him. However, for Maxentius, praise was more unpleasant than insults or criticism, and, in order to escape the fame into which they tried to throw him, he quietly withdrew from Agde and remained in hiding for 2 years. But, on returning from his retreat, he found that he already occupied a much more prominent position than before, for on the very day of his return it began to rain copiously after a prolonged drought, and everyone credited him with the miracle and hailed him as a savior and worker of wonders. For Maxentius it was evident that, if he wished to lead a life of solitude and oblivion, he had to break with all the ties that bound him to his past. For the second time he disappeared, and this time he left his native Narbonne for good. After a brief period of wandering, he arrived in Poitou, where he entered a community in the valley of Vauclair, governed by the abbot Agapito, and, in order to erase his past, he changed his name from Adjutor to Maxentius. But although he managed to hide his identity, his holiness could not go unnoticed. His austerity was so great that he never tasted food other than bread and water, and his prayers were so continuous that his back was bent. Moreover, he was attributed with the power to work miracles. A few years later, during the devastating conflict between Clovis, king of the Franks, and the Visigoth Alaric, the inhabitants of Poitou suffered untold hardships, especially because of the violence and brutality of the soldiers and marauders. One day, a band of armed men advanced threateningly on the monastery of Vauclair, and terror seized the monks, who implored their abbot, St. Maxentius, to save them. He reassured them, and calmly went out to meet the hostile horde. One of the attackers raised his sword against the saint, who awaited the blow with absolute serenity, but the presumed murderer's arm remained raised, paralyzed, until St. Maxentius restored the movement by applying consecrated oil to it. To follow the example of his predecessor, Abbot Agapito, St. Maxentius resigned his post when he felt his death approaching and locked himself in a cell, built a short distance from the monastery. There he died at the age of 70, around 515.